Derek, real estate transaction. Sino yung may labor pa? May tax, may labor, tsaka home. At practice court? Why pa ba kayo?
Actually, sir, hindi pa po alam yung predicament ng mga nasa old curriculum.
Ay, bakit ano ba to? Iba?
This is a mixture po of three classes. One is from the old curriculum, another is the regular,
Okay.
and then the others are refreshers.
Ano nangyari sa old curriculum?
Sa mga refreshers po, they just have to attend the review classes. Sa
Right.
old curriculum po, ay nung nag-enroll kami ng first year, nasa old curriculum kami. Nung nasilip na ng LEP, ngayong fourth year po kami, sabi niya, you should not transfer to the new curriculum.
Ano bang difference?
Units.
May
So what,
additional?
so what they did po to us is to add 18 units na overload po namin. That is why the old curriculum are having 27 units.
But ano yung units na yun na enroll yung electives?
Po, yung mga wala po sa old tulad ng forensic, legal medicine, ADR, alternative dispute resolution. Kaya po, 28 units po kami na yung set. Until Sunday.
Pero hindi naman siguro mabigat yung mga or hindi na pa yung pahirap. Hindi naman, di ba? Or hindi pa sila papasok.
Pumapasok.
Pa. Flashcards? Flashcards. Sino ba yung mga nasa old curriculum? Dami pala.
Sabi?
Pero class kasi yung commercial law review, 15% lang naman sa bar. So, kayo kung ano ipa-prioritize nyo, okay lang naman. Kung naman kayo feel. Pero, anyway, Luis Carmelo, Christina, Michael Joseph, Geraldine,
Sir.
Gerald,
Sir.
Jeda May, Anthony Adrian, Erica Joy, Derek, Sarah Joy, Eddie, Eliseo, John, Colin Joyce, Paul, Annette, Corazon, Grazela, Jefferson, Arnold, Michelle, Josephine, Eric. So, we'll take a break after we discuss letters of credit bago tayo pumunta sa yung simula ng corporation ko. So, just remind you, baka makalimutan ko na. So Commercial law review, we just discuss briefly the course syllabus para may overview lang kayo. So, commercial law review is a 4-unit course. It is a comprehensive survey and review of the laws and jurisprudence on corporations, securities and exchange commission, negotiable instruments, insurance, transportation, banking, intellectual property, and other relevant commercial laws. So for our class, we just discuss briefly what is the nature of commercial law in general. It's part 1. Then we go on to letters of credit and trust receipts transaction, trust receipts law. Then we go to corporation code and foreign investment act. The foreign investment act kasi related na siya dun sa foreign corporations sa dulo, towards the end of the corporation code. So, tinugtong ko na. Then, securities regulation code, negotiable instruments law, banking laws, transportation laws, insurance code, intellectual property code, and then the FRIA or the Financial Rehabilitation and Insolvency Act. Last year, the bar exam, that was the first time that the FRIA was became part of the bar examination. So, I'm not sure kung itutuloy nila. Previously, there were FRIA questions sa bar simula 2010, pero hindi siya kasali sa syllabus, kaya lagi siya, parang consider siguro bonus. Pero last year, in-include na, so we'll wait for this year kung i-include. If it will be included, then we'll discuss it. Sa dulo ko naman siya ni-schedule. And then, our references would be Commercial Law Review by Cesar Villanueva and Gabriel Villanueva, or Reviewer on Commercial Law by Sundiang and Aquino. Actually, you can use the books na rin yung ginamit nyo during the class, during your undergrad year. So, para hindi na kayo bibili. Kung gusto nyo, okay lang naman. Pertinent laws, of course, the relevant laws, and then the Supreme Court decisions that I've assigned na nandito naman na sa syllabus. But, please take note, additional cases will be assigned from time to time. Ibig sabihin, magbibigay ako ng cases na 2017. 2017 cases na lang idadagdag ko. Or hinintay ko na kasi kung ano yung coverage ng anong cut-off date for the 2017. So, kung baka i-cut off nila ng June or May, dun yung magbibigay pa ako for the, kasi 2016 lang yung coverage nito. So, magbibigay ako up to yung cases na nilagay sa syllabus. Kasi mamaya mag-assign ako ng December. I think yung sa tax ko may na-assign ako dun na November 2017 eh. Pero hindi natin i-discuss kung hindi covered to cut-off date. Sayang naman kasi dagdag aral, hindi na natatanong. So, ganun ako, tamad ako class. Tamad din ako mag-aral. So kung ano lang yung minimum, yung required na aralin, yung na-aralin natin. Kaya hinintay ko rin yung FRIA kung i-include natin. Kasi kung hindi naman siya included sa bar, we will not study kasi makakagulo lang. So assessment and grading, same dun sa... Kayo ba lahat sa tax review kanina? Sino yung naiba?
Pero po ibang walang tax.
Ha?
Pero po ibang walang tax.
Sino yung walang tax review? So basically lahat ng pala alam na recitation tayo every week. So long exam, scheduled attendance, and then stages. The midterm exam will be 30% of your final grade, and the final examination will be 40%. That will constitute the comprehensive final exam, meaning cover to cover. Parang nagbabar kayo. So the grading system, i-check ko pa sa Dean's Office, pero ito yung tentative na grading system natin. By the way, I do not adjust grades. So if you get a particular grade, yun yung grade nyo. So if you will fail to make it to the cut-off grade, adi you get a grade of 5. Pero I do not, wala akong binibigay ng 4 pala. So if you get a grade of 74 to 70, kasi 4 yung nakalagay dito, it's 3, automatic 3 na yun, 3 na yun. So hindi ako bibigay ng 5, ng 4. So, yun. Anyway, Supreme Court nga nag-a-adjust. So, kahit isa ako hanggang 70. Case digest, class, konti lang naman yung cases. Ay, hindi pala. Pero these are must-read cases. Ito na yung mga updated and important cases. Kung mapapansin nyo naman, ilan lang yung below 2010. Mostly above 2010, 2016, 2015, 14 cases. Tinatanong sa bar, if you can see the trend sa bar, it's actually about the recent cases. Rarely do the examiners ask old cases. Old cases pero narito rin sa subsequent case, so ganun pa rin. So medyo recent cases yung aaralin natin. Kung meron man medyo luma, these are assigned dahil importante sila. Then we also have the scheduled class schedule. So say for February 3, we have to discuss commercial law, letters of credit, trust receipts, corporation code, which is sections 1 to 22, 137 to 149. So class, I'll be expecting, dahil ito na yung class schedule, hindi na ito mababago. Kung ano yung nakalagay sa class schedule, we'll be discussing them. So please take note before you come to this class, the relevant cases as well as the coverage must be studied. So hindi naman na mahirap, kasi nga, review na lang kung may re-reviewin. So you have just, mabilis lang, review lang naman kasi tayo, hindi naman na ito yung mahirap. Unlike, hindi naman ito yung first time yung makikita, di ba? I understand that there are subjects which you have not taken up during your undergraduate. Ano yun, para manood ko? Banking lang.
Kami na lang po.
Kasi okay lang. Banking, walang banking, ano pa? Ano ito? First time natin aralan. Oh, ano pa? Letters of credit, securities.
Sa old curriculum po, wala kami intellectual.
Banking, intellectual, ano pa yung wala? PRIA, wala.
Wala din po.
Trust receipts, wala.
Wala din po.
Ayaw. When I studied before, wala kami letters of credit, trust receipts, foreign investment, wala kami securities, banking namin, sabaw, wala akong IPL, wala rin akong PRIA. Anong ginawa? Di hahabulin natin. Habulin nyo yung aral. Kasi hindi pwede na hindi. Pwede natin iskipan ng lesson or aral dito, pero at the end of the day, pag nag-bar kayo, habulin nyo pa rin. Kasi nga, pasali sa coverage. Yung, except the FRIA, yung lahat na to, lagi na tong coverage ng bar. Kaya ito na yung for the last 5 years coverage ng bar. Ito na yon, except the FRIA na last year lang. So we have to study all of these. Kasi lagi ito na yung mga lumalabas sa bar. Actually, pattern to sa syllabus for the last 3 years ng bar exam. Except nga ng FRIA. So with that, we'll start with commercial law. And we'll start with the recitation. Mahaba yung time. Yung tax kanina, 2 hours na kaya nag-discuss ako na mabilis. Pero this time, dahil mahaba, 4 hours naman. So, kasi alam ko nag-ready kayo. Sayang yung So, let's start with commercial law. Basically, I've just mentioned what is commercial law. Yung course description natin, commercial law pertains to all laws involving commerce and trade, particularly corporations, securities, negotiable instruments, insurance, etc., etc. But you will note that the main source of commercial law, there are a lot of laws. Kung makita nyo, wala tayong one unique code. Unlike sa civil code, na nandun lahat yung may property, may... Actually, family code, nahiwalay na yung laws on family, nahiwalay. Pero more or less yung family code, nandun pa lahat. Ay, yung civil code, nandun pa. partnership, sales, etc. Halos nandun pa. Unlike sa commercial law, wherein we have various laws. Previously, we had this Code of Commerce. Nandun karamihan, although ngayon hindi na. Kasi medyo outdated na yung provisions on the Code of Commerce. So, let's discuss first. Please take note also that commercial law is a private law as opposed to a public law like like political law. When we say private law, it only deals with one private person to another private person. Unlike a public law like political law, it deals with the government and the individual or the private person. Other examples of private laws are civil law, deals with one person to another. How about criminal law? Are they private law? Are these private laws or public laws? These are public laws because it deals with the transgression of an individual with the state, with the policies or with the state. So so we know that commercial law is a private law. Let's discuss some fundamental postulates in commercial law. Nandun sa simula ng libro ni Villanueva. So, can you tell us some of these postulates, Geraldine? Geraldine? What can you tell us about, can you tell us some characteristics of commercial law?
Commercial law, sir, is a private law which regulates
Yun na lang characteristics. Sino nakapagbasa class ng Villanueva? Wala rin. Walang nagbasa class? Sino may Villanueva na libro? From the life? Sige po, ano po yung first character? You may take your seat. Sige po, ano po yung first characteristic? Alright. Commercial laws are universal. Bakit sila universal? They appear in all civilized society. Anywhere na merong civilized society, there is trade, there is commerce, and behind this trade and commerce, there are commercial laws governing them. So, kahit saan kayo magpunta, it may not be the same or may not be the same kind of law, but anywhere you go, as long as there is civilization, there is a governing commercial, there's trade and commerce, there's a governing law, governing said trade and commerce. The second one is progressive. When we say progressive, commercial laws are progressive in the sense that as the times change, commercial laws change as well. So before, kung mapapansin nyo, wala pang transaction sa internet. So wala pang law. Ano lang, ngayon meron ng e-commerce act. Although hindi nga lang included sa course natin. Before, hindi pa ganun ka-recognize yung intellectual property. If you will note, before wala pang intellectual property law, and kahit napasa na intellectual property law, hindi pa siya part ng coverage ng PAR. Kasi hindi pa ganun ka-importante yung intellectual property law back then. So the same as securities, dati hindi naman niya kasali. Ngayon inaaral na kasi lagi na siya nababanggit. Particularly in the case of banking laws, with respect to anti-money laundering. Before, wala namang anti-money laundering. Pero because of the acts of certain mga individuals na nagla-launder ng money internationally, nagkaroon tayo ngayon ng sarili nating anti-money laundering law. In this sense, makita nyo that commercial laws are progressive. They adapt to the changing times in commerce and trade. The next and the last one, equitable. When we say equitable, ano equitable? Sir, yung sa tax yan, parang may equitable. Hindi. When we say equitable here, we speak of in terms of trade and commerce and trade, usually when we give something, we get something in return. Yung transactions are equitable. Kumbaga, walang lugi. Kasi otherwise, commerce and trade will not progress. So, these are some of the fundamental postulates in commercial law. Now, what do we follow, sir? Manifestation theory or cognition theory with respect to offer and acceptance in commerce and trade. Ano po ba yung manifestation theory? Ano po ba yung cognition theory? Narinig na po ba yun? Parang narinig ko na yun, hindi ko lang maalam kung saan. Ano yung cognition tsaka manifestation theory? Yung nakakalam ba? Yes.
So regarding cognition theory, so the acceptance of the offer by the offeree, and the knowledge of the acceptance of the offer by the offeror perfects the contract.
In cognition. How about manifestation? What do we follow? Cognition or manifestation? Ha? In manifestation, say class, ano to? Nag-offer ako sa inyo through a letter. So, hindi nyo pa nare-receive yung letter. And then, nung na-receive yung letter, nag-signify kayo ng intention. Parang okay, I accept the offer. Then, pinadala nyo na sa akin. Minail nyo ulit, papalik. But before I receive that offer, or before I receive the acceptance, namatay ako. Will that constitute a binding contract? Or hindi pa? In the manifestation theory, following sa New Civil Code, following the manifestation theory, hindi pa. Kasi kailangan may knowledge ng offeror. Sa cognition, hindi kailangan ng knowledge ng offeror. Basta in-accept, considered na. Ano po susundin natin? Cognition po or manifestation in commercial law? For commercial laws under the Code of Commerce, ang Code of Commerce pang nag-govern, we follow the cognition. Pero for all others, manifestation na. Yun yung nasa New Civil Code na transactions, they are actually covered by the manifestation. So kailangan alam muna. Pag hindi alam, hindi ba perfected yung contract? Tama ba yun? Ano na nakalagay dito, sir?
Sir, I'm looking at the general rule of perfection.
Okay.
And it says commercial contracts are consensual as to perfection. It is perfected from the moment the offeror has notice of the offeree's
Yan.
acceptance.
Yun nga yung sa New Civil Code, we follow
Cognition.
that concept. Basta ma-perfect na. Pero nga, for Code of Commerce transactions, ano ba covered ng Code of Commerce? Bottom loan, yan. Yan, yung mga yun. So they are still covered by they are covered by the Code of Commerce. Insurance. Yung insurance ba perfected by mere consent o kailangan perfected by kailangan ba pag in-accept perfected na ba or kailangan pa inform yung nag-apply ng insurance? Ha? Kailangan alam. Pag namatay before, hindi. So, hindi pa perfected. And that was asked in 2016 for cognition and manifestation theory. Kaya ako nang binanggit. Pero paki-check yung Villanueva class, ha? Yung first few chapters lang. Then, ito pa, tinanong na rin sa PAR. What constitute a transaction as commerce or trade? How does class, yung sale is actually a civil law concept. Pero it can also be commercial law concept. Pero bakit po yung sale nasa new civil code? At hindi siya included sa commercial law, kundi included siya sa civil law. Pag, halimbawa, pag bar exam. Kasi yung sale, ordinary sale of one person to another, it's already a civil relations. Pero pag ginawa mo siyang commerce, in nature of commerce, it becomes part of the commercial law. Kailan po nagiging commerce ngayon ang isang transaction? If there is an element of habituality. Pag paulit-ulit, or engage ka na, or in our concept ngayon, engage ka na sa trade or business na selling. Engage ka na sa selling. You are already engaged. Meron ka ng element of habituality. Yung civil law transaction nagiging commercial transactions na. Yung element of habituality. Now, let's talk about some constitutional provisions on commerce and trade. Actually, majority of the constitutional provisions can be found in Article 12 kasi nandun yung national economy and patrimony. So, majority nun provided sa Article 12, and it speaks of priority given to Filipinos. So, meron tayong concept din ng Filipino First Policy. If you have encountered the case of GSIS versus Manila Prince Hotel sa Constantine, narinig niyo na ba yun? Yung Manila Prince Hotel is being sold to a foreign, para binibenta na yung majority shares niya, ay yung majority nun binibenta na Manila Hotel, binibenta na, then may buyer na, I think a Malaysian buyer, but GSIS wanted parang may local corporation na gusto na bilhin or tapatan yung offer, yung bid price. Sabi ng, kasi ang class, pag may bidding, kung sino yung highest bidder, siya yung panalo. Ganun lang. Pero in this case, ang highest bidder kasi, yung foreign. Ngayon, nung nalaman nyo ng local bidder, sabi, pwede ba namin tapatan yung bidding price para sa amin na ma-award? Ayaw pumayat nung sa Manila Hotel. Pero nung dumakyat sa Supreme Court, sabi ng court, yung Manila Hotel, is actually part of the national patrimony and heritage, and as such, priority must be given to Filipinos. So, inalaw na tapatan. So, meron tayong concept ng Filipino First Policy. How do we in the Constitution, how this Filipino First Policy can be seen? There are certain industries of which it can only be owned by Filipinos. There are industries, at least 60% must be owned by Filipinos. So, mayroong mga limitations. Ano yung example na 100% owned? Media, yan. Uso-uso yung sa Rappler case. So, kitang-kita niyo class, merong preference ang Constitution, may preference ang ating Constitution to Filipino. It can, at least with, halimbawa sa mass media, it can only be earned 100% by a Filipino. Then meron na yung other corporations, 60%. May iba, mas bababa. So, sa Foreign Investment Act, we will encounter some of these corporations or of these kinds of industries na kailangan may certain percentage. Yung nasa negative list, A and B. So, if you can recall, kung naaral nyo na. Now, let's talk about the applicability of Code of Commerce. Applicable pa po ba yung Code of Commerce? Kasi Code of Commerce, yun nga yung law, parang body of law governing commerce. With respect to laws na pinasa na, halimbawa Corporation Code, Securities Exchange Commission, Securities Regulation Code, Negotiable Instruments, etc. Lahat na meron tayong existing, hindi na siya, kung nasa Code of Commerce, repealed na yun, deemed repealed na. Ano na lang po yung mga naiwan sa Code of Commerce? Letters of credit, cross checks, yung bottomry loans, respondensya, yung sa maritime transportation law. Ano pa po meron dyan? Bills of lading, nandun pa. Kwentas and participation, joint account, sociedad anonima, mga old concepts on business organization. So nandun, governed na Code of Commerce. So if the question is the Code of Commerce still applicable? Yes, it's still applicable. In the absence of Code of Commerce, in the absence of special laws, anong applicability of Code of Commerce, anong gagamitin natin? Customs and usages. That's expressly provided under the Code of Commerce. During my bar, 2015 bar, there is a question, and the question is like, are the uniform customs and uniform customs on the letters of credit applicable in the Philippines, considering that they are only customs? So, ako nasagot ko, hindi ko alam yung sagot. Pero yung pala, nasa Code of Commerce. Parang bola-bola lang ako. Pero ang sagot pala doon, yes, they are applicable because in the absence of provisions under the Code of Commerce, kung hindi mag-a-apply yung Code of Commerce, mag-a-apply yung customs and traditions. So, customs and usages of trade. So, by express provision of the Code of Commerce, which is applicable with respect to letters of credit, then customs and usages with respect to particular commercial transaction included pa. So, yung preliminary articles on the Code of Commerce, nandun lang naman yun, yung applicability of the code, ano yung pagwala, special laws, yung habituality. So, pakibasa lang, paki-review lang yung Villanueva. Yun lang first part ng Villanueva. Or pati kung meron kayo nung Sundiang, meron din konti sa simula ni Sundiang. So, on about Code of Commerce. Kasi ito yung class yung mag-govern generally. So, I'm sure wala kayong subject na diniscuss kung ano yung commerce in the first place. Nag-start kayo. Alam mo, nego ba?
Nego na.
Parang wala lang. Ignore lang kung ano yung commercial law. At bakit siya tinatawag ng mercantile law? Ba't nga ba siya tinatawag ng mercantile law? Wala lang. Yung ibang tawag. Parang
May merchant.
ha?
No merchant.
Oh, pero class hindi siya mercantile law kasi may mga estudyante ako dati mercantile law. Hindi siya mercantile law, mercantile law. So, baka magkamali-mali pa. Now let's go now to there are certain other constitutional provisions mamaya dadaanan natin sa start ng corporation code. Pero let's now go to the letters of credit and trust receipts law. Let's now discuss what is a letter of credit. Oh, Winifredo. Sir, what is a letter of credit?
The old Code of Commerce, letters of credit were simply defined as a written agreement issued by a bank to another bank. But that's the general concept for the old Code of Commerce.
How about the new one?
The letters of credit now, as known in business, especially in banking transactions, is written statements issued by a bank to a person or to another institution, asking that person or institution to advance a certain amount of money for another person, a third person, who is to buy or who is to possess goods. That letter of credit will serve as a authority for the issuing bank or for the drawing bank to lend the third person limited amount of money for business transaction.
Alright, so in letters of credit, tama naman si Sir. Ang letters of credit is actually one person is allowed to draw credit. Wala pang pera na ina-advance pero is allowed to draw credit as an advance payment. Paano po yun? Kasi ganito, sir, you may take your seat for a while. Ang nature ng, kasi, simplihan ko lang yung terms, pero hindi naman kasi ganito yung sa batas, sa cases. Letters of credit, ikaw, alam ba ako seller, kayo buyer. Ako seller, kayo buyer. Ako, as a seller, I don't want to part with my goods until I am paid. Ikaw buyer, you do not want to part with your money unless you are paid. You get the goods. So parehas tayo. Ako ayaw mo nang ibigay yung goods unless mabayaran ako. Kayo ayaw niyo muna magbayad unless ma-receive yung goods. That transaction is easy kung face to face. Punta kayo sa tindahan, kaliwaan. But what happens if the transaction is not na face-to-face transaction? The transaction is, say, importation or malayo, pare. Besides Luzon to Mindanao, malayo. So, let's take for example importation. Sa Hong Kong. Punta ka sa Hong Kong, nasa Hong Kong yung seller or yung buyer, nasa Pilipinas seller or buyer. So, either way. How can you ensure na yung transaction mo sa Hong Kong will indeed ship the goods to you at ikaw, kasi ikaw, paano kung hindi niya i-ship? Wala, mag-deposit ka sa account niya, hindi naman niya ipadala, hindi kawawa ka, kung millions yung transaction, niloko ka, mahirap yung magpa-file ka ng kaso doon, di ba? Medyo mahirap. So, ikaw, gusto mo, ma-sure ka na, before you pay, dapat ma-release mo na yung goods or dumating mo na sa yung goods. Likewise, yung kabilang party, yung mga nasa Hong Kong, baka mamaya i-release ko, di ako bayaran. So, ayaw din niya. So, how do we reconcile these seemingly irreconcilable differences between the seller and the buyer through a letter of credit? So, paano ito ginagawa? Ako si seller, I'll go to a bank. So, halimbawa, HSBC, Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation, which I assume meron din naman sa Hong Kong na branch. May branch sa Hong Kong, meron din sa Pilipinas, HSBC. I'll ask HSBC to open a letter of credit in my favor for the benefit of the seller, of the buyer. Ako seller, buyer nasa Hong Kong. Sabihin ko kay bank, open ka ng letter of credit para dun sa buyer. Teka. Ako ay isang buyer. Ako ay seller, buyer. Hong Kong buyer, Pilipinas seller. Ayan. Open ka ng letter of credit. O open a letter of credit in favor of the buyer. Ito, teka. Seller. Hong Kong seller, okay. Seller. Ay, seller. So, paano gagawin? So, ang importante dito, basta may letter of credit in favor of sa akin, tsaka doon sa kabila. So, meron ng letter of credit, may na-open na letter of credit. So, pag may na-open na letter of credit, anong pwede kong gawin? Teka, baliktad. Ako yung seller. Sorry. Ako yung seller. Ako seller, buyer Hong Kong. Okay na. Ako seller, buyer Hong Kong. Seller ako. Meron pa kayong susulat ko na lang. Meron pa kayo ko. Ayan pala. Mas mabagal to kasi hindi yung patukan nyo na-discuss. Pero in a corporation code, mabilis tayo. So, buyer, seller. So, between the buyer and the seller, may contract sila. Ano yung contract nila? Sale sila, contract of sale. Ngayon, si buyer nasa si buyer nasa Philippines, ito nasa Hong Kong. Ngayon, si seller, so mag-open ng letter of credit, sabihin ni buyer, sige mag-open na lang
Mag-open tayo ng letter of credit sa bank, HSBC. So, may bank na HSBC dito, may HSBC dito. May dalawang bangko. Meron kang letter of credit, meron kang LLC ka ngayon dyan. How does the letter of credit goes? When we speak of credit, how do we understand credit? In ordinary language, utang. Di ba utang? Utang siya, credit. Pautang. So, may letter of credit ka, na-authorize mo magpautang sa HSBC. So, anong gagawin ni seller? I-ship niya yung goods sa buyer sa Philippines. When you ship goods, anong meron ka? You are given documents, bill of lading, yung mga commercial documents, proving that you are the owner of the goods. Kasi paano malalaman na yung dumating na goods, iyon yung sa'yo? Meron kayong bill of lading, meron kayong cargo manifest, mga other documents, etc. etc. So, yung documents na yun, ipe-present ni seller kanino? Sa HSBC. On the premise of the letters of credit na inopen. Yung documents, yung letters of credit, you can stipulate that upon presentment of the seller of the documents, halimbawa bill of lading or any other documents na required do sa letters of credit, kung ano may mga required documents, upon presentation kay HSBC, babayaran niya si seller ng goods. Binayaran. So, pe-present ni seller, babayaran na siya. Nakanino ngayon yung goods? Yung goods, wala. Naka-ship. Diba? Shipping. Pero sino technically ngayon ang may-ari ng goods? Nakanino yung documents? HSBC. Which is nasa HSBC Hong Kong. So, ano gagawin ng HSBC Hong Kong? Pwede niya ipadala yung documents sa HSBC Philippines. So, papadala niya Philippines. So, ngayon si buyer, required na ba siya magbayad? May babayaran na ba siya? Wala pa. Kasi, pag na-receive niya yung, pag dumating na yung goods, sasabihin ni HSBC, oy buyer, dumating na yung order mo na goods. Para ma-claim ni buyer yung goods, anong gagawin niya? Kukunin niya yung documents kay HSBC, provided babayaran ni buyer yung amount na nandun sa documents. Or kuwari, ang usapan is 10 million yan, babayaran ni buyer yung 10 million. In this sense, masaya si buyer kasi sure siya na hindi siya magbabayad unless ma-receive niya, dumating yung goods or ma-receive niya yung goods. Seller, masaya rin kasi unless mababayaran siya upon shipment. Kasi merong bangko. Yung letter of credit, so ano ngayon yung mga transactions na nangyari dito? So, na-gets yung simple example. So, buyer-seller, letter of credit, HSBC. Yan. So, ano yung mga transactions na nangyari? First transaction is the contract of sale between the buyer and seller. What is the second transaction? Contract between, so sino yung nag-open ng letters of credit? Usually si buyer. Opening no letter of credit between sino parties dito? Buyer and HSBC. And the third transaction is the letter of credit proper. Ano yung letter of credit proper? Yung between HSBC and the seller. So, letter LOC proper. This class is what we call as the three contracts in a letter of credit. And meron tayong tinatawag na independence principle. These three contracts are separate and distinct from one another. You must maintain their perpetual separation. Kung may na-violate sa contract of sale, walang pakialam doon si bangko. Walang pakialam. Kung may na-violate dito, walang pakialam itong contract of sale. Parang nagkaroon ng violation sa letters of credit na transaction. Walang pakialam dito yung contract. Hindi maapektuhan yung contract ng buyer and seller.
So, pag nagkaroon ng problema dito, mayroon palang disagreement, walang pakialam kung letters of credit proper between the seller and HSBC. Wala silang pakialam, walang pakialam, wala, hiwa-hiwalay sila. So, as a rule, we maintain that's the principle of independence of these transactions. Then we have this concept of fraud exception. Class, madali lang pag ina-explain ng ganito, pero you have to read yung, ano ba yung definition, except yung accurate na parang pinalawanan ng law. Kasi hindi nyo pwedeng sabihin sa exam, ay kasi ganito po yun, meron po yung letters of credit. Kaya ako ito sinisimplify for you to easily get concept. Then pag pinasa nyo, madali nyo na maintindihan. Meron tayong fraud exception. So, halimbawa class dito, di ba, letter of credit proper. Si seller, di ba, si seller nasa kanya documents nung shinip niya. Halimbawa, may isang document doon na finorge lang niya. Or parang may inalter siya doon. O kaya, yung goods, di inalter siya. O kaya, yung goods, di ba, ang usapan nila is 1,000 boxes of of X particular goods, so ano, X goods. So, 1,000 boxes. Pero yung dumating nung nakuha na ni buyer, ano lang pala lumabas? Parang meron doon 100 boxes na Y goods, hindi siya yung X goods na hinihingi. So, sabi ni buyer, ay hindi ko papayaran, pero yung documents ni seller, good for 1,000 goods ha. So yung present niya kay HSBC, yung documents as required by the terms of letters of credit. Si HSBC ngayon, binayaran si seller kasi yun nasa term sa contract. Clear naman, maayos yung documents. E dumating kay buyer, 900 lang ng X goods, tapos 100 ng Y goods, sabi ni buyer kay HSBC. Ay, hindi ko papayaran yan kasi mali yung dineliver. Pwede ba yun? Hindi pwede yun. Under the principle of itong independence principle, si bank, HSBC, hindi siya required i-check kung na-ship nga ba, kung ano yung present na documents, yun nga ba yung actually na-ship. Na ano yun, kawawa sa bangko o i-check pa ba niya isa-isa kung tama ba yung pagkakaship. Hindi. Kasi, between the bank and the seller, ang contract lang nila is letter of credit. Ano yun? Seller will be allowed to draw a credit for a particular amount provided seller will give to HSBC yung documents na hinihingi under the letters of credit. Hindi required na i-check isa-isa ng mga goods. So, pero, dito na, meron tayong tinatawag ng fraud exception. So that's an example of independence principle. Walang pakialam yung shinip na goods, si bank, wala siyang pakialam. Ano po itong fraud exception? May nakakaalam ba? Sir, basa ko pero hindi na naintindihan. Ano yung fraud exception class? May nakakaalam ba sa fraud exception? Sige, okay na. Try na. Sige sir.
Sir, under that, an alteration or a defect in one of the documents used in the transaction may qualify as a defect that would merit an injunction against the payment to the issuing bank. However, it doesn't cover, as you said earlier, it doesn't cover, there's a difference in the item shipped. This is not included this is not the fraud contemplated. The bank is not required to check into the velocity if it was blue or white or whatever the color of the goods. There is only fraud when there is a misrepresentation in the document which is not in conformity with the letters of credit issued by the issuing bank.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So, in fraud exception class, hindi lang isang transaction yung naapektuhan ng fraud. Halos lahat ito nagugulo na. Iba yung merong material na misrepresentation, not only with yung binigay ni seller sa HSBC, pati yung mismo contract nila ni bank, pati itong opening, nagkakaroon na ng misrepresentation. Pag naapektuhan itong tatlong to ng fraud na sinatawag natin dito, then you can say na itong tatlong contract pwedeng magkaroon, hindi na siya independent from one another. Parang tatahin niya ng court, pwedeng magkaroon na kahit ito yung violation, pero affected itong dalawa, pwede mag-issue ang court ng TRO or injunction. Para hindi na i-proceed yung, yung delivery or yung pagbabayad no letters of credit. Ay, yung pagdodraw ng funds sa letters of credit. For you to be able, medyo mahirap explain yung fraud, but for you to be able to understand this, you have to read the case of Transfield versus Hydro. Luzon Hydro in full text class. I'll be asking you to read that case kasi wala kayong background information on letters of credit. So I'll be asking you to read that case in full. Talaga, yun lang. Kasi importante na maintindihan nyo. Medyo mahirap lang explain, pero pag nabasa nyo, makikita nyo, ganun lang pala yung fraud exception. Now, class, this is the basic transaction sa letters of credit. Buyer, seller, and then bank. Kaya lang class, okay sana kung halimbawa may HSBC dito, may HSBC din sa Hong Kong. Very convenient. Eh paano doon sa malalayong lugar, sa Japan? Wala naman halimbawa walang bangko doon. So, merong additional parties na tinatawag. The correspondent bank. Correspondent bank. Nasa libro naman sa mga notes yan. Ano yung correspondent bank? Halimbawa, si buyer, dito sa case natin, di ba HSBC nag-request si buyer sa HSBC. Incidentally, may HSBC din sa Hong Kong. So wala tayong problema kasi yung usapan ng HSBC dito at sa Hong Kong, madali lang. Kasi same, kumbaga, hindi ba sila maaaring separate entities pero same yung governing bodies nila internationally. Pero paano kung wala? So merong si HSBC, meron siya tinatawag na correspondent bank, halimbawa sa Hong Kong, correspondent bank. Itong si buyer, mag-open siya, ito, HSBC sa Pilipinas Philippines. So si buyer, mag-open siya ng letters of credit kay HSBC. Magsasabi siya kay HSBC. Si HSBC, may ka-correspondent bank. Ano yung ka-correspondent bank? Halimbawa, may partner bank siya sa Hong Kong. Ang partner bank niya ay Hong Kong Bank. Hong Kong Bank. Si Hong Kong Bank, silang dalawa ng bahala kung paano i-open yung letters of credit. Ano po relationship ni HSBC at bank dito? Hindi natin alam, maaaring partner, parang partner na hindi partnership parang may understanding, memorandum of understanding, etc. Ang mahalaga is, yung si Hong Kong Bank, nare-recognize niya yung credit ni HSBC. Bakit kailangan i-recognize ni Hong Kong Bank yung credit ni HSBC? Kasi kapag siya nag-advance at wala siyang makolekta rito, kawawa siya. So, kumbaga, technically speaking, HSBC has a good credit standing kay Hong Kong Bank, allowing HSBC to open a letter of credit dito. Nagbubukas niya. Nakukuha? So, correspondent bank. Meron din other parties. Kung babasahin niyo yung sa mga libro or sa mga reviewers, meron pang other. Notifying bank, confirming bank, ano pa? Negotiating bank. So, halimbawa, sa notifying bank, sasabihin lang na, yung notifying, technically, nag-notify lang na, may letters of credit na may na-open ng letters of credit, dumating na yung goods, pwede mo lang discount. So basically, nag-notify lang siya. Ano pa yung other example? Ano yung conforming bank? Ano sabi dyan? Ha? Siya nagbabayad? So, pag confirming bank, as if, parang siya rin hindi siya yung nag-open technically ng letter of credit, pero nag-assume siya ng kinonfirm niya na may letter of credit in the sense na, pag hindi nabayaran ng bank na nag-open ng letter of credit, ina-assume din niya responsibility to pay that letter of credit. Ano naman yung negotiating bank? Meron ba? Negotiating bank? Yung negotiating bank, sa bank, halimbawa, malayo si HSBC, pero merong si buyer, di ba? May malapit kay buyer, tapos ka-negotiating bank ni buyer, si HSBC, or dito pala sa Hong Kong. Malayo yung Hong Kong bank, merong banko na malapit kay seller, tapos negotiating bank. Ibig sabihin, si seller, pwede niya lang i-present yung documents kay negotiating bank. Si negotiating, discount niya na. Kung babayaran niya na yung value ng goods. Tapos si negotiating bank, pahala na makapag-coordinate kay Hong Kong bank para makuha yung statement. So, anyway, class, yung other parties, ano lang naman sila? Parang dagdag lang, pero hindi mo talaga sila yung parties. Ito lang, tatlo. Sila lang importante sa letters of credit. Proper. Sa letters of credit transaction. Ano ba yung importante dito? Ano yan sa syllabus? Yan nga. Ganun lang. Last, please read yung Luzon. Ay, yung ano siya? Transfield versus Luzon. So, very important for letters of credit. Then we have trust receipt transaction. Ano po yung trust receipt transaction? These are covered by a trust receipt law. Ano yung trust receipt law? PD 115. Ano po yung trust receipt? Or ano yung trust receipt transaction? Si Eddie? What is a trust receipt transaction?
Trust receipt transaction is a commercial document whereby the bank releases the good to the entrustee that retains ownership, and the buyer sells the goods and he proceeds to be applied to his liabilities.
Alright. Class, so trust receipts are actually another kind of commercial document katulad ng letters of credit. But this time, kung yung letters of credit, ang purpose niya is actually to reconcile the seemingly irreconcilable differences or needs or wants ng buyer and seller. Sa letters of credit, sa trust receipts naman, ang aim ng isang trust receipt is actually to aid sa financial aid to the importers or businessmen who wants to do business pero may not have sufficient funds. In which case, the goods he imports or yung goods na siniship niya, yun yung nagiging collateral for his, yun yung ginagawa niya parang investment slash collateral for the transaction. So, paano po yun? Ganito lang. Simple lang din yung mukha lang mahirap. Promise. Nakakasunod ba? Okay. So, trust receipt. Kasi, for example, ako importer. As an importer, di naman syempre marami akong transactions, hindi naman unlimited yung pera ko. Pero yung, alam ba, ini-import ko abroad, worth hundreds of millions, hindi ko naman kayang, madali sana kung may letters of credit, ganun. Pero minsan hindi lahat ng bangko papayag na mag-open ka ng letters of credit. Kasi titignan pa ng bangko yung capacity mo sa kung makababayaran mo pa pag na-shift, di ba? So, pero, the bank pwede silang pumayag ng trust receipt transaction. Ba't sila papayag? Kasi dito, the goods will be owned by them. By the bank. For a time, magkakaroon ng interest yung bank doon sa goods for the time being. So, pag hindi mo nabayaran, maaari yung bank kukunin na nila yung goods at okay sa kanila yung goods na i-ship. So, anyway, bago yun, so tingnan natin, para importer, wala siyang funds. So, anong gagawin niya? So, kakausapin niya si bank, ayun, parang si bank yung mag-finance, parang pag pinasimple mong finance, pero si bank, siya magbabayad dun sa nag-export from other country. So, sabi mo kailangan ko ng 100 million worth of parang construction materials. Si E, willing magbigay. So, si E, i-release kaso wala namang 100 million si I. So, anong gagawin ni E? Pumayag si bank, o sige, ako muna mag-finance. Yan. So, pero under a trust receipt transaction. So, si E, si exporter, yung nasa ibang bansa, ilalabas niya yung goods, babayaran ni bank 100 million. Nakanino kayo yung goods? Kay bank. Pero si bank pa talaga yung may kailangan ng goods. Hindi. Ang may kailangan talaga ng goods, si importer kasi, bibenta niya yun eh. Yung goods, parang ang business siya talaga, ibenta itong mga materials na to. So, anong gagawin ni bank? Mag-issue siya ng trust receipt transaction between them. Paano yung trust receipt transaction? Si bank, sasabihin niya, basically, although maraming mga terms doon sa trust receipt, ang basic terms na laging nandun sa isang trust receipt transaction ay may obligation si importer, hindi alternative. There are two alternative obligations. Or, may alternative obligations si importer. Ano yung alternative obligations? I-release ni bank yung goods kay importer on the condition that si importer, ibebenta niya yung goods, yung proceeds ng goods will be turned over kay bank. Or kung ano man yung proceeds dito, or kung ano man yung amount na nakadefine sa trust receipt transaction. So, 100 million, inabenta ni ay halimbawa ng 200 million. Pero sa trust receipt transaction, malamang hindi yan 100 million, may patong ang bangko dyan. So, ang usapan nila is 120 million. So, si I, kailangan niya, pag nabenta niya na for 200, kailangan niya bayaran yung kung magkano man yung nasa usapan nila sa trust receipt. Kung magkano usapan nila sa trust receipt. Usually, yung amount plus interest, or kung may fixed man, okay lang. But ang importante is, there is an obligation for the importer to sell the goods, hold the proceeds for the benefit of the bank, and remit. Anong tawag natin sa obligation na to?
Concessionaire.
Entregar lang. Narinig yun na. Entregar lang. Narinig yun na? Check nyo lang. Entregar lang tsaka devolvera class. I-check nyo kung ano yun. Actually, it's in the case assigned. Then, so sabi ko kanina, in the alternative. So ano po yung alternative obligation ni I? It may happen, class, kasi I, di ba, nasa kanya for sale of goods, hindi niya mabenta yung goods. Or hindi niya nabenta lahat. Or hindi niya nabenta lahat. So ano ba, hindi niya nabenta lahat. Meron na tirang nasa kanya yung goods. Anong obligation ni I ngayon?
Give the goods to
return the goods to bank. Kailangan niya ibalik yung goods sa bank. So the obligation is in the alternative. either sell the goods, hold the proceeds for the benefit of the bank, and remit the same. Or, kung hindi mabenta, hold the goods and return it to the bank.
Plus interest, sir.
Hindi, wala.
Wala.
Wala. Yan ang trust receipt transaction.
When I return, the clerk will he be liable for damages or cancel?
Alin, ito? Hindi. Wala. Alternative kasi yung obligation. Unless may bad faith. Kung may bad faith, of course, liable to for damages. Ay, hindi ko talaga bibenta kasi wala na, ayoko ng benta kasi palugi na eh. So, palugi na. So, balik ko na lang sa bangko. That would amount to bad faith. Hindi ka, ang violation mo under the obligation law, obligations and contract. Pero kung in good faith, hindi mo lang mabenta for some reason, alam mo, bumaba ng market, etc. Hindi mo mabenta. So, you have the obligation to return it to the bank.
Sir, and you just returned to me the 100 million amount of construction materials, of which it's not my business. Can I put in the TRT that if I would return the goods, that would be inclusive of its depreciation cost, for example? Pwede kaya patungan ko ng konti.
It's possible sa trust receipt
So
transaction.
it depends kung
Oo.
ano magiging agreement.
Basta, the minimum, itong agreement na to, in the alternative exists in a trust receipt transaction. Parties are able to stipulate other terms and conditions provided they're contrary to law or as public order of public policy under Article 1306 ng UCP Code. So, okay lang. Wala tayong problema. But there are other obligations si I dito, si Porter. Kailangan niya kasi kuwari, pag nawala yung goods, kailangan may insurance, yung mga usual na protection na terms and conditions. So, nasa trust receipts law, yung mga yun, na in details. Pero yun yung pinaka-note. So, question po natin, so, ito lang yung trust receipt transaction na nangyari, yung obligation ni I. Ano po ang interest ni bank over the goods? Ano po ang interest ni importer over the goods? At bakit po kailangan malaman yung interest? Are you familiar with the concept of res perit domino? Ha? Res perit domino. Res perit. Ito nga ba yun? Res perit domino. At saka, nemo that quod non habet. He cannot give what he doesn't have. Res perit domino, nemo that quod non habet. Ano po yun? So, unahin mo natin. Ano po yung interest ni B, si bank, dun sa goods? Technically, class, sino ba yung may gusto talaga sa goods? Si bank ba? Si I. So, yun nga lang, nagawa ko siya trust receipt kasi hindi nga niya mabayaran. So, si bank parang technically nag-advance doon sa pera. So, ngayon, maaari na yung goods na in-export ni E, pinangalan ni E, hindi sa bank, kundi kay I. It's possible na ipangalan kay I. Kasi, siya yung, sino ba ang kontrata ni E talaga? Si I eh. Diba? So, it's possible kay I nakapangalan. It's also possible that E is fully aware of the trust receipt transaction, thus may agreement na ipapangalan lang kay B to hold parang sa kanya yung ownership in the meantime until ma-fulfill yung obligations under the trust receipt. So, pwede rin kay B. Pwede ganun yung usapan. So, ang tanong natin ngayon, sir, ano na po yung goods talaga? Sino po may-ari? So, yung may-ari, kung nakapangalan kay I, edi siya yung may-ari. Kung nakapangalan kay bank, edi siya yung may-ari. Kung si bank, kay bank nakapangalan yung goods, wala tayong problema. Wala problema si bank. Kasi, ay din, pag kay, ito, tingnan niyo yung problema, pag yung goods nakapangalan kay bank, kay importer muna, paano pagka tumakas si importer? Oo, na si bank. Saan siya habol eh? Paano siya habol? Pag naman nakapangalan kay bank, yung goods, pag sasabihin ni I, kuwari, si I may ka-transaction, si B, si X. Eh, di naman pala sa'yo yung goods eh. How come you're selling the goods? You cannot give what you do not have. Paano ka magbebenta? Hindi naman sa'yo. Ang pangalan, ang title ng kay B. Diba? Nakuha? Paano, ang goods sa kay B, wala ka namang title dyan sa goods. So, pag binigay ko yan, ano mangyari? Mamaya, benta mo sa akin, habulin ako ng bangko. Pero, this principle of nemo that God non-habet does not apply in trust receipts as an exception. Si bank, meron siyang, kung hindi man sa kanya nakapangalan, hindi man siya nakapangalan as owner, no, meron siyang tinatawag natin security interest over the goods. Kuwari, kay ay nakapangalan, okay lang, pero meron siyang security interest na tinatawag natin. Itong security interest na to, it's a sort of lien na superior sa lahat. Pero, pag nabenta na yung goods, hindi pwede na habulin ni B. Kasi yun nga yung nature ng trust receipts eh. Yung proceeds, yun ang mahawakan na ni ang entitled si B sa proceeds ng goods. So, paano sir, halimbawa, alam natin, nemo that God non-habet, kahit hindi si I, sa kanya nakapangalan yung goods, pwede niyang ibenta as if siya yung owner. Kasi hindi natin susundin yung nemo that God non-habet. Kasi pag sinunod natin yan, walang bibili sa kanya. Kasi hindi naman ikaw may-ari. Kahit ikaw ang nakapirma, kahit may SPA ka, may tao pa rin, ba't ako bibili? Kasi hindi naman ikaw yung talaga may-ari. Especially kung 100 millions of transaction yan. Diba? So, hindi ka mag-apply. How about the res perit domino rule? The owner bears the loss in case of the owner bears the loss kapag nawala yung goods, di ba? So halimbawa, si P, siya yung owner, nakalagay siya yung owner. So nirelease niya under trust receipt transaction kay importer. Ngayon, si I, in the process of sale, nawala niya. Nasira. Paano bang nawala? Correct. Yung construction materials habang dinideliver, nagkaroon ng aksidente, fortuitous event. Or dinakaw sa kanya, fortuitous event. Basta nawala. Sino ang masusunod? Sino who bears the loss? Sasabihin ni importer, wala, fortuitous event under the US Civil Code considered as extinguish na yung obligation ko. Kasi wala na yung goods fortuitous event. Pero, the rule of res perit domino does not apply to trust receipt. Who bears the loss here? It is the entrustee. By the way, si bank ay entrustor, or ito entrustee. Si entrustee, siya ang nagbe-bear ng loss. May express provision of the law. Si entrustor ang nagbe-bear ng loss. Ito. So, kaya nga obligation niya na ipa-insurance yung mga goods. Kasi pag hindi yan naka-insured, nawala, siya ang magbe-bear ng loss. Pag po na halimbawa, nawala, hindi naka-insure, nawala yung goods, nawala. May obligation pa ba si I towards KP? Yes. The underlying obligation of parang the underlying obligation between I and B na bayaran yung 100 billion or yung nandun sa trust receipt transaction subsist. Nandun pa rin. 100 billion plus interest, kung ano man yun, subsist yun. Nandun pa rin. Yung goods na wala, kasi ang nag-bear ng loss si I, so ibig sabihin, meron pa rin siyang obligation din. Hindi na wala yung obligation niya kay B. The underlying obligation is not dispensed with. So, paano naman? Ano pa ba? Wala pa siya. Hindi, marami pa. So, violation. So, class, di ba hindi ka, sabi dapat ibabalik yung goods or bebenta yung goods, i-remit or ibabalik kung hindi nabenta. Paano kung hindi nabenta yung goods? Paano kung nabenta yung goods pero hindi ni-remit or hindi nabenta, hindi sinaudit? Ano ang liability ni importer? Stapa. Liable siya for stapa. Paano kung corporation to? Hindi naman. Yung responsible officers which perpetuated the stapa. Pero usually, sila yung board of directors. Pero kasi pwede rin naman na yung officer lang na nag-aayos. So yung board of directors, maayos yung instruction, pero yung officer na intrusa, siya yung that person will be liable for estafa. Sir, sa estafa, under Article 315 na revised penal code, there is a requirement of deceit. Deceit. Question, is violation of and estafa, di ba? Deceit. We know, tapos tayo sa criminal law review, di ba? Pre-brev. So under criminal law review, or pre-1, for that matter, you will recall that pag violation na revised penal code, as a rule, there must be criminal intent. In this case, may deceit. May intention ka na manloko. Kasi sa estafa, element of estafa is deceit. Pero for violations of special laws, meron bang intent to may criminal intent ba? Wala. Anong meron? Intent to perpetrate the act. Or yung parang mismong act, paggawa mo ng act na bawal. Pag ginawa mo yun, liable ka na. Regardless kung meron kang criminal intent or wala. Kasi hindi mo nagawa. So, dito, ito ay malum inse, di ba? Inse. Yung PD 114, we can say is malum prohibitum. Kung malum prohibitum yun, pag hindi mo, the fact na hindi mo siya sinole, kailangan pa bang i-prove yung deceit on your part? Kasi you'll be charged with estafa. No more. Sabi ng court, Supreme Court, malum prohibitum yun. The fact na hindi mo sinauli, meron ng deceit. Kasi, the fact na hindi mo to sinauli, meron ng dishonesty, meron ng grave abuse of confidence or abuse of confidence on your part pag hindi mo ginawa yung obligation mo. Knowing na may ganito ang obligation. So, consider na siya as malum prohibitum, hindi na kailangan i-prove yung deceit. The fact na hindi lang sinauli, ano na kailangan i-prove ng bangko? May trust receipt transaction, hindi sinauli within the time period stated in the trust receipt. Yun lang. Then liable ka na for estafa. Hindi na kailangan na merong criminal intent or may damage or whatever o ano man. Yun lang. Ito lang kailangan i-prove. Liable will be the officers. Ano pa ba? Sir, pwede po ba magkaroon ng, ito medyo complicated, trust receipt transaction at letters of credit transaction?
Yes.
Yan, pwede. Tingnan nyo lang class para paano natin i-connecta. Yung dalawa na yan. So, letters of credit, trust receipt transaction. Buyer, seller, bank. Ito yung normal na letters of credit transaction. So, si buyer mag-open ng LOC kay bank in favor of the seller. So, halimbawa, yung kanina, i-release ni seller yung goods, yung present niya yung documents kay bank, babayaran ni bank yung goods, yung value ng goods, si bank para makakuha niya yung bibigay niya yung documents kapag nagbayad na si bank. Yung transaction natin dito from seller to bank, madali naman yung i-release lang babayaran lang ni bank pag nagbigay ng documents. So, okay. Wala nang problema doon. Pero, it may happen na si buyer, wala talaga siyang pera or insufficient yung funds niya. Pero, pinayala siya kasi kilala siguro ng bank, okay yung credit study, inalaw siya mag-open na letter of credit in favor of S. Pero wala talagang pera si B. So, anong gagawin? So, yung goods, di ba, nakaship na. Technically, nakaship na papunta dito sa Pilipinas or sa lugar ni B. Kung saan nandun din yung bank na kinausap ni B. So, si bank, nakanino yung documents, shipping documents, nakay bank, di ba? Yung mga documents. So, si bank, so technically yung goods, sino may hawak? Si bank, kasi yung evident in title of ownership na kay bank. Diba? So, ang gagawin ni bank, si buyer, pwede siya mag-open ng letter of credit kay bank. Paano yung gagawin? Ay, letter of trust receipt transaction kay bank. Si bank mag-open ng trust receipt, si buyer mag-open ng trust receipt transaction. Ano yung transaction na yun? I-release ni bank yung goods kay buyer bilang isang entrustor, siya yung trustee, on the obligation na ibebenta ni buyer yung goods at yung proceeds i-remit, or kung hindi mabenta, ibabalik, return. Nakuha?
Yes, sir.
In which case, meron kang letter of credit in one hand, then sa end buyer, meron kang trust receipt transaction. Nakuha? So, pag nabenta na, nabenta na ni buyer, i-remit niya yung goods, ibibigay na ngayon ni bank yung documents. Nakuha? Yeah. So, last concept,
Sir, so the trust receipt then will serve as a security.
yeah, security. Security na, kasi si bank, kasi although na may bank naman, ayaw, ba't ako pa magbebenta niyan? Hindi naman talaga ako nag-import. Diba? So, pag ikaw magbenta, tapos i-remit mo na lang sa akin pagka nabenta mo na. May hawak, kumbaga, additional security. Kasi, parang si bank, hindi siya sapat na yung documents sa siya lang may hawak. Gusto niya, pag hindi sumunod si B, sasampahan niya ng staff pa. So, under PD, yung sa trust receipt. So, pwede rin na ganun. Actually, additional security para sa si bank. Kung ako yung bank, I'll always have this trust receipt.
Sir, question.
Sir?
That means the documents are very vital.
Sorry. I see.
Sir, upon the payment of the bank, of the proceeds,
Payment,
so di
ito?
ba magbebenta niya?
Sorry,
Sa
ito.
trust receipts po.
No.
Sir, so upon the payment of the proceeds, determining yung obligation na under trust receipts law, ay trust receipts transaction, and at the same time, yung letters of credit din, sir. So, parehas obligation yung mawawala.
No. The letters of credit obligation has already been extinguished
Upon
the sellers. Kasi yung letters of credit proper, it's between the bank and the seller. So, nung si seller, binigay niya na kay bank yung document, at si bank binayaran na si seller, tapos na yung letters of credit. Ano yung nagsasubsist? Doon sa tatlong contract, di ba may tatlong contract, yung dependence principle. Ito yung letter of credit proper. Yung contract between the buyer and the bank on the opening of letters of credit. Yun, nagsasubsist pa. Ito yung may extinguish. Pagka na-settle na to. Ito, upon payment nito, wala na. Tapos na.
I mean, sir, yung obligation ni buyer kay bank, nabayaran yung letter of credit, sir.
Obligation ni buyer
Sa bank.
kay bank, nabayaran yung may extinguish na. Kasi, ito yung pambabayad talaga dito is yung remittance ng
Proceeds.
yung proceeds.
So, dalawa yung ma-extinguish sa kanya, sir. Number 2 contract and the trust receipts. Pag
Yun.
nagbayad siya.
Mm. How about yung una?
Di ba, buyer,
Yung contract of sale between the buyer and the seller. Actually,
perfected.
as to S, wala nang pakialam si S. Upon delivering nyo kay bank. Kasi parang si bank, nag-act na siya as agent ni B. So wala na siyang parang technical. Ako pakialam kung anong mangyayari sa inyo. So, kasi nga, meron tayong dependency principle. Basta na-ship ko na yung goods, nag-open ka letters of credit, may usapan na kami ni bank, okay na. So, as to us, as to our sale, ano na. Although, perfected days yan, hindi pa nga makukuha ni B yung goods. Kasi nga, meron pang other underlying transactions. Okay. Then, may questions pa rito? So, sige.
Sir, about yung trust receipt, ginawa lang or executed after na ma-deliver or nasa possession na ng buyer. Can you consider still trust receipt, sir?
Hindi na. Kasi, yun yung i-discuss ko na susunod. Kailan trust receipt transactions, kailan hindi na trust receipt transactions. So, mag-iwag muna natin yan. So, apart from the discussion pa,
So those documents owned or held by the bank are synonymous before as the goods themselves.
oh, kasi yung class for, if you can remember your law on sales, yung pag ganito yung mga buntuhan na, meron tayong tinatawag na negotiable document of title. Remember? Yung negotiable document of title, they evidence the goods. Diba? They evidence the goods. So, yung, wala tayong paalam kung sino talaga yung may hawak ng goods, kung nasa warehouse man niya, kung nasa lugar man niya. Ang ownership nun, wala doon sa kung sino may possession. Kung na kanino yung possession or title no negotiable document of title, which is, an example, bill of lading, example yun, negotiable document of title. So, you can relate yun. Ganun lang yung relation niya sa sales. Pagka sugar, kedan. Limang kedan naman ang tawag. So, mga ganun lang. Documents tayo dito. Then, ano, may questions pa?
So, if the documents evidence ownership, so therefore, the bank has ownership over the goods. Pag sa trust receipts,
Kapag naka-title sa bank, pag ang title kasi nakalagay specific sa holder or bearer, pag bearer, negotiable document of title ng bearer, sa bank, siya yung, kasi siya may hawak, siya yung owner. Pero pare, naka-specify B or order, hindi si bank yung may hawak, hindi si bank yung may ari. Ano lang siya? Meron nga lang siya, under trust receipts, no, security interest. May interest siya, kumbaga preferred siya, over that goods, preferred siya dun sa goods na hawak ni B. Nakukuha? So halimbawa lang class. Kung pag yung documents na naka-ship, nakapangalan sa bank, or naka-holder or bearer or nakapangalan sa bank, ownership of the goods belongs to the bank. Pag nakapangalan kay buyer or the order of buyer, so pag buyer or order ni buyer, specified person, kay bank yung ownership. Ano meron si bank? Kay buyer yung ownership, ano meron si bank? Security interest.
So parang mag-act lang siya as agent, sir, between the buyer and the seller.
Parang ganun. Pero hindi talaga siya agent, but under a trust receipt transaction.
So, when there's damage or loss, sir, so kung nakapangalan siya kay bank pa rin.
Hindi nga. The rest domino rule will not apply. The owner bears the loss, hindi nga siya mag-apply. Ang liability will be with the buyer who is also the importer na may alternative obligation. Kaya ang nilinaw ko, rest merit domino rule will not apply.
Sa trust receipt, sir.
Sa trust receipts. Will not apply.
Sir, ako po yung hawak ng bank is a negotiable instrument. What if the bank
Pwedeng
ignores-
negotiable, pwedeng hindi.
If it's a negotiable, so what if the bank ignores the document to another person or see?
Then, ano mangyari? The bank is liable for violation of trust receipts. Hindi nga lang PD1, hindi nga lang estafa. Kasi yung estafa, dito lang. Sa pag failure to remit or failure to return the goods upon kung hindi na bayaran. Pero liable siya under the contract. Breach of contract of trust receipt agreement. Yun ang liability niya. Nakukuha ba? Meron akong concept na okay, nakukuha? So far? Okay, alright. So we have transactions na there may be transactions na parang trust receipts, pero hindi naman talaga trust receipts based sa jurisprudence. Bakit yung bank nag-claim siya na may trust receipt transaction, yung buyer, sinasabi niya na wala. Kasi si buyer dito in these cases, na-violate niya yung agreement at sinasampahan siya ng estafa. So, ano tong instances na to? The first instance is when yung sinabi ni sir, the goods were released first before the execution of the trust receipt. The release of goods, release before trust receipt agreement. So halimbawa, si bank, di ba may letters of credit lang yung inopen. Si bank, nirelease niya na yung goods kay B. Kahit hindi pa nababayaran, siguro may tiwala. Tapos later, sabi niya, teka, bakit di ako mabayaran? Di ako bayaran. Subsequently, nagkaroon sila ng agreement, sabi, teka, yung goods na nirelease ko sa'yo, subject yan sa trust receipt. Mag-execute na yung trust receipt. So, nag-execute naman. Hindi nabayaran, hindi nag-remit, hindi na-return. Will this amount to a trust receipt transaction? No. Hindi. Sabi ng court, ano lang siya? It's a mere loan. Kumbaga, si bank, nung nirelease niya na yung goods, pinautang niya kay buyer yung goods. Pinautang lang niya yung goods kay buyers. With obligation to pay. Dahil utang lang yan, loan lang siya, hindi siya liable for staffa. Pero meron siyang obligation to pay. Pero hindi na yung alternative obligation. Kasi nga, hindi siya trust receipt. Ano lang? To pay the loan, which the bank granted him. So, wala nang return ng goods, wala nang remit. Basta bayaran mo kung paano mo babayaran. It's actually simple loan. Ito yung case ng, I think, Polinares. Tapos, yun sa assigned case ng yung class. Then the other one, another instance is, the goods are not intended for sale. Not intended for sale. The goods themselves are not intended for sale. Kasi, pag na-open tayo ng trust receipt transaction, ano ba ang obligation na ina-assume ni bank, ni buyer dito? He will remit the proceeds, he will sell the goods, remit the proceeds to the bank, or in the alternative, return the goods if unsold. Paano kapag yung goods are not really intended for sale, but for some other purpose? Si B ba ay magiging liable for trust receipt? Pero may trust receipt, hindi po siya magiging liable, hindi siya magiging liable for staffa. Ang case na yun ay NAM versus Land Bank versus Perez. In Land Bank versus Perez, ang agreement nila, si buyer, si importer, ang business talaga niya, yung in-import niya, construction materials, ano ba, 100 million, construction materials, hindi niya talaga ibibenta. Kundi, gagamitin niya yung construction materials na to dun sa business niya, which is construction. Pero nag-open ng trust receipt agreement. So, hindi nabenta kasi nga ginamit ni importer sa business niya. Not sa sale, pero meron trust receipt transaction. May trust receipt agreement. Ang tanong, nung sinasampahan ngayon ito ng case, sabi ng court, teka, wala yung trust receipt transaction kasi the goods in the first place, these construction materials are not intended to be sold. Remember, the primary obligations of the buyer in the trust receipt agreement is to sell the goods, or if unsold, return the goods. How can you say that there is a trust receipt agreement if in the first place the intention of the parties is not to sell the goods but to use it in the business of the importer, of the buyer? So, dahil doon, alam ni bank na hindi naman talaga yung ibebenta kung gagawin sa kahit mag-execute sila ng trust receipt agreement or yung sa paper, it will not be considered as a trust receipt, but rather a loan. Kumbaga, i-advance ni bank yung bayad dun sa kung saan man in-import ni buyer. Tapos, pag nirelease niya, parang pinautang lang din yung goods. So, it will become a simple loan.
So, they should not enter in the trust.
They should?
Not enter.
Paano?
They should not enter in the trust kasi walang effect yung trust sa transaction.
Yeah, ideally they should not. Pero yung bank kasi, ang akala niya, okay lang yun. Parang, kasi kung ako bangko, ano mas gusto ko? Loan agreement na walang collateral? O or trust receipt agreement na may penal provisions. Siyempre, trust receipt ang execute. Although si bank, dahil natin sa case, siguro hindi pa siya aware na, kasi wala pa namang ruling ng court before na ganun nga. So yung banks, hindi sila aware na kapag yung intention talaga ay hindi to sell but for the construction, wala talagang trust receipt.
Security lang ang habol kasi.
Oh, ganun lang po. Yung ihapon. So, ayan. Goods, when the goods are not intended for sale, there is no trust receipt transaction. Nakuha? May last concept pala ako na kanina ko pa naaalala, bigla nawawala pag nagsakanong pa yun. Ayan, nawala na naman. Ayan, so trust receipt transaction, ito lang, kanina pa ito dapat pero nawala sa ako. So si bank, di ba meron siya security interest? Security interest. Halimbawa, hindi nakapangalan sa kanya yung goods, hindi niya own. Nakapangalan sa kanya yung goods or hindi, basta meron siya security interest. Kasi, ito yung, para saan to, tignan nyo. Halimbawa, si buyer. Nirelease ni bank yung goods kay buyer as entrustee, entrustor, and trustee. So, ngayon, si buyer, yung goods na kay buyer, naging insolvent. Nalugi. So, ngayon, yung creditors TV, hinahabol yung 100 million construction materials. Kasi, ang laki nun, 100 million. Kasi na kay P. Halimbawa, security interest, yung title na kay, yung ownership na kay P. Yung sa pangalan sa dokumento na kay P. So, kung ako creditor, habulin ko yung assets ni P. Na may 100 million pa pala eh. So, pero sabi ng court dito, in this case, yung security interest na to will work in favor of the bank in the sense that the bank is the preferred creditor with respect to this 100 million na construction materials. So, yung other creditor, sige, habulin nyo, okay lang, pumila kayo. Kasi ang priority, kapag nag-insolvent si bank, pag nag-file si bank ng claim kay B, dahil insolvent nga, yung itong goods na to, kanya, siya ang priority dito. Dahil meron siyang security interest. Yun ang hindi ko matugtang kanina. This is how security interest works. Priority si bank dun sa goods. Pero nga, sabi ko nga, pag nabenta na yung goods, wala nang habol si bank sa goods. Ano yung habol ni bank? Dun sa remittance. No? Proceeds. Okay, that will conclude our trust receipts and endeavors of credit. We'll discuss corporation. Let's take a break. Kayo na magre-recite after sa corporation kasi meron kayong corporation doon. I'm sure ready na kayo. Kaya ako lang ito discuss kasi wala kayo dito. Pero sa mga susunod class, hindi pwedeng ganito hindi kayo matututo.
Next meeting.
Hindi
Hindi kayo